Welcome, Coleman Report Live, and this week we mean live. Sorry about last week. Lance was out of pocket. Joseph and I were in the middle of Death Valley, and I guess there were a couple hiccups, but we tried that for the first time by tape recording it. We promised not to do that again. I think is that a fair statement, Lance?
I am hopeful that that is a true statement, Bob.
Hey, we've got a ton of questions. We have a ton of great content, but first, there are the questions. And please, if you have any questions about anything in SBA, send it over to us during the week. Lance is very good about getting back to you on that. For those of you who are new, we have certificates that you can download through the GoToWebinar dashboard. Put that in a file that answers the question, what you do for training. This is definitely training. And we're going to start off with Thomas Kimsey, President, CEO of Thomas USA. Thomas, I'm going to see you in a couple of weeks in Puerto Rico. Why are we going down there?
Bob, we're going down to Puerto Rico, as we've done across the country last year, to help Puerto Rico recovery and provide access to capital like we've done before. We're very excited about the P3 meeting down there. We've got a great lineup, and we're certainly looking forward to it, and glad you'll be a part of it as well.
What's it cost for me to get on a plane? Well, obviously the plane ticket, but what are you charging for bankers to show up here?
Well, the good thing about our conference, it's, the conference is free. You just got to pay your expense to get there and the hotel, but it's a free conference. You don't see that very often. So we're,
Your sponsors have done an amazing job on that, and the hotel is under $200 a night. So this is definitely a very affordable venture. Tell us about some of the speakers. Who have you got lined up?
Well, we've got a great group of speakers this trip, Bob, and Administrator Brand from RBS will be there speaking, along with her Deputy Administrator, Mark Brzezinski, which many of you know as well. And over on the USDA CF side, Joseph Ben Israel, the Assistant Deputy Administrator, will be speaking. We've also got the Regional Administrator for SBA coming down as well, the Governor of Puerto Rico, the Congresswoman, and this lineup's just really fabulous. So we do a lot of these, Bob, but we've got a great group this year from the USDA, the SBA, as well as the local government officials from Puerto Rico.
If anybody has an interest in doing USDA BNI lending, obviously, if you're in community bank, you're not going to be lending in Puerto Rico, but all the C-suite managers of USDA will be there. It's a great way to connect. And Thomas, I've been to several of these. We did one in Atlanta and Washington, D.C. You have the full support of USDA, a number of other lenders, and this is just a phenomenal event to learn about USDA BNI lending.
It is a great opportunity because, as you said, we've got the key players from the national office there as well, but it's also an opportunity to help Puerto Rico, who certainly needs our help to recovery, and that's what we're excited about, as I've said before, just providing that access to capital, Bob.
Thomas, if they want to register, how do they do that?
You can contact our office, contact Natalie here at our office. She'll get everything set up, or visit our website, the National Rural Lenders Roundtable. There's a link there that has everything from the hotel to registering for the conference. But if you have any questions, feel free to call us here at the office, and we'll get you set up.
Yeah, or send me an email, and I'll be happy to forward it to Natalie. That way you don't have to go digging. Hey, Thomas, thanks a lot. I'm looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Bob, always, thanks for the opportunity. Have a great day.
Hey, Bob.
I'm sorry, Lance, go ahead.
I only have one question. Why am I not going to be in Puerto Rico?
You're invited.
Lance, you're invited. Shall I go ahead and register you today?
I guess I should. No.
You're a lot closer to Puerto Rico than I am in California. Listen, I can get to London better than I can get to Puerto Rico. My flight is not user-friendly. I think I have to go through Newark and some other places. I don't know. Hey, post-shutdown, we want to know, what is your experience? This is for Citrus Heights. This is for GP processing. And I purposely made this very minimal because we could be talking about loans that were submitted before the shutdown or after the shutdown. And what do you got? Okay. Lance, what do you think about that, Lance?
Bob, I think you're right, but I will tell you this, and Bob knows this, they put me on mute. I got a phone call from Citrus Heights right prior to this program, and they are working at a frantic pace to get as many deals processed as possible in case we do have a second shutdown. They're doing some things for lenders in terms of trying to get ahead. You get your normal screen out letter, Bob. They're trying to pick up the phone in a lot of instances.
Well, tell the story. Tell the story you told me before we went on the air.
Well, we've got a loan for GP processing, and they actually picked up the phone, and the SBA lender said, hey, I just wanted to give you a heads up. We're sending a screen out letter, but here's what's in it so you can go ahead and get working on collecting those additional pieces of information before, so the time it takes for the screen out letter gets taken out of the equation. I've talked to a couple of directors, and they are doing everything they can to earn that exceeds expectations, Bob, because they are trying to process. And I've been told that, they've done a pretty tremendous job at trying to get caught up, and will continue to. But, from my perspective, Bob, so far, they're exceeding my expectations.
Awesome. Second question, 504. What's going on with CDCs out there?
And I'm more interested to see the response here, Bob, because I've not had interaction with the 504 processing. So
that's interesting. I would have, first of all, I'm glad that the answers are okay or better, but from the little anecdotal information I've received, I thought more people would say exceeds expectations. But I'll go back to that number, Joseph. What is it, 9% below expectation? 18%. Yeah, I mean, I think those are still phenomenal numbers. And what little I hear, SBA is definitely attempting to get into that top bucket. But those are good numbers. It could be a lot worse, right, Lance?
Well, and I've also heard, Bob, that delegated lenders are popping applications through the system at a rapid pace.
Yes, they definitely are. It's going to be interesting to see what the numbers look like for the past couple of weeks. Hey, just out of curiosity, we've been we have our hotel finance report that we're going to be launching, and we've been talking to some people. And I'm just curious, in 2019, the beginning of 2019, we all read warning flags about certain things slowing down. But what is happening with your institution in ground-up hotel construction? And that's a higher number than I would expect, Lance.
Hey, Bob, my response to that would be it depends on the flag.
Well, of course, but this is a general question, and there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just trying to get a sense of the industry. And
well, I see a lot of hotel projects, Bob, and as long as it's a reasonable flag, our institution will certainly look at a ground-up construction on a hotel.
I think the takeaway for this is if you're looking at ground-up construction, I agree with the 45%. Take a look at it. I agree with Lance. Take a look at it. Just take a good look at it.
Yeah.
And our other final hotel question is, we will finance a non-flag mom and pop. Because everyone loves, there's certain brands, we all love Marriott. But what about the non-flags business acquisition type?
Yeah.
50-50.
Yeah, the response doesn't surprise me. And a lot of it depends on the financial strength of the guarantors, the historical cash flow of the mom and pop hotel. I mean, certainly the answer is not false on my perspective. If the numbers are right and the guarantors are right, we'll look at that too.
Yeah. The takeaway for this is equity, operator experience, and we always forget. These are not real estate loans. These are small business loans, and you need to have an operator who knows how to operate a motel. This is not as anything else. You're not buying a piece of property and collecting checks. You have to run a small business. Lance, what's this question from Paul? Go ahead.
Paul asked a good question, and Paul and I kind of worked it out and got an answer resolved. Paul was just asking about a express revolving line of credit and how it denotes the interest-only period and the term-out period. And Paul and I got the note out, reviewed it, and got everything correct, or found everything to be correct. But I think the question brings up something that's real important. The SOP 5010-5J on express revolving lines of credit now requires a term out period on the backside of the loan that's equal to or greater than the interest only period. So Paul's example of 2 years interest only, 5-year term is fine. Or you can do a 3 and 3, a 4 and 4. You can do a 1 and 6, but you have an interest only period, and you've got to have a term out period on the backside that's equal to or greater than the interest only period. You can't do a 7-year interest only deal anymore.
Lance, you talk a lot about servicing. I know that's a passion close to your heart. But reinstatements. Scott asked us, basically, how do I do it? Yeah, for some reason, I don't have a guarantee in my system. How do I do it, Lance?
I don't know the form have the form in front of me, but I'm going to tell you where you can get it. You can go to the SBA website, sba.gov, go up in the search bar, type reinstatement form. It'll bring up a form that you can download that's good for both the Little Rock and Fresno Center. It's a pretty simple form, yes, no questions. It's a couple of places where you put in the current balance and the next payment due date, but it's pretty simple. And most reinstatements, when I was deputy director at the Little Rock Center, we approved a majority of them as long as we could tell that, there are 3 things that were critical about reinstatements. One, if it was one where the guarantee fee had not been paid, that you could provide proof that the guarantee fee had been paid. On all other reinstatements, we wanted to make sure you were relying on the guarantee, which means, are you reporting it on the 1502 report, and are you paying the ongoing fees? As long as those pieces of information are there, most of these reinstatements will get approved. And again, Scott was asking about the form. Just go to the SBA website, go in the search bar, type reinstatement form. You can get it, download it, put it on your computer desktop.
Lance, the lender collects the guarantee fee. It falls through the cracks. The lender never sent it off. We do a file review 9 months later, and we realize, oh, here's the check in the file. We never sent to SBA. Wow. Are we out of luck, or will SBA be kind to us?
I think you could still get it reinstated. I think they may ask some questions. The one thing you have to do when the guarantee fee has not been paid, you've got to pay that fee at pay.gov. Get that receipt, complete the reinstatement form, submit it to SBA. Now, you're going to have some additional explanation if there's 9 months that have passed, Bob, because
we screwed up. We just we didn't hit send on the computer.
Yeah, I'm accustomed to seeing reinstatements where they figure it out 30 days after the fee was due. 9 months is a little longer, so you may want to provide a little additional narrative as to why you didn't pay it 9 months.
But I think the takeaway is what you're saying is SBA. They're not. They will work with the lender as much as possible. Is that what you're saying?
As long as they are, again, the 3 key elements in a reinstatement: did you pay the guarantee fee? Did you report it on the 1502 report? Did you pay the ongoing fees? Those are the 3 keys.
All right, very good. So I guess what we're trying to say is, don't, if that happens, ask for forgiveness and.
Well, there's 2 types of servicing, Bob, that I would tell any institution. Don't, reinstatements. If you've got a loan that's not showing up in E-Trans servicing, you look at your list, it's not there. Right. Get it reinstated, Bob. SBA wants to reinstate it. Unless you've done something horrible, they're going to reinstate it. The other thing is guaranteed purchase. I hear stories of institutions when they pick up a loan that's went into liquidation and they review the file and they're like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of stuff missing. And then they just walk away from the guarantee. I would never do that, Bob. In all the purchases packages that I've worked on, there have been some that got repaired, but 100% of the guarantee purchase packages that I personally have submitted in my lifetime, we've gotten money.
Yeah.
So SBA, the old percentage, it's more than 90% of the guaranteed purchase requests result in payment.
Very good. Hey, I want to spend some time, Lance, talking about this SOP procedural notice from SBA. We published this on Tuesday. Lance, you are a horrible predictor. You predicted the government shutdown would end February 15th. Actually, the government shutdown may start February 15th. So,
yeah, well, certainly there were some things, I read a story today that part of the reason they put the government back to work is the air controllers were not showing up. And I think they wanted to get those guys and ladies paid so they would show back up and direct air traffic throughout the country. But just keep this in mind. We had a webinar about how to do interim financing during a shutdown. I've talked to a lot of people I know in Washington, and there's a mixed bag of reactions as to whether it's going to shut down again. So you need to have this in your tool belt. If you're a PLP delegated lender, you can do an interim loan for a project during a shutdown and then take it out with an SBA guaranteed loan as long as it's within 90 days.
You can take it out PLP, correct?
Absolutely. You can use your delegated processing, which I think a lot of people are somewhat cautious about that, but you can, for instance, Bob, let's say you're doing a loan today, you do an interim loan for a small business, it shuts down on the 15th and they go back to work in March. You can take that out with a PLP loan, the interim loan.
Go to the next slide. You can also do the same thing, GP. This is Community Advantage, but it's also through Citrus Heights. You can do an interim loan as a GP lender, as a Community Advantage lender. You cannot do it PLP because you don't have delegated authority, but you submit it to Citrus Heights. And Lance, you and I are on record. Citrus Heights will react very favorable to this type of transaction. They are, look, the purpose of SBA is they want to get capital to Main Street. This structure is obviously a benefit to the borrower, and that's what they want. Correct, Lance?
Absolutely. And Bob, in the case of a delegated loan where you did an interim loan, let's say, and guys, it's not going to be more than 90 days, but let's say it did extend more than 90 days. You can still submit it GP as a refi.
Yeah, then it becomes same institutional debt. You can't do it PLP. I will go on record. We're not going to have a shutdown more than 90 days. It's not going to happen. If we do, I think we're talking caves and other types of living arrangements.
I think the biggest evidence of that, Bob, is we went 6 weeks, which is longer than the longest shutdown in my memory. And they realized there were essential positions where there were not enough people there, and they put them back to work. If it does shut down on the 15th, it's going to be short-lived.
SBA has gone on record. This is from the notice. It says, hey, now this was as December 21st, but they will accept the dates on financial statements, appraisals, environmental reports on the date of application. In this particular instant, for example, let's say something expired December 31st, they will go with the original package as presented and accept that. The only asterisk caveat is say, yeah, but let's make sure we get updated financial statements.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'm going to make a phone call to Citrus Heights on one that I'm working on. He did ask for an interim statement, and I'm going to request that he just put it as a condition in the authorization.
Which is what the notice says, absolutely. Lance, talk about expedited requests. I thought it was fascinating that they put this into the notice. How often, first of all, I'm glad they put that in the notice. They are telegraphing to the industry that we understand there are issues. We understand there are time-sensitive requests. And they put this in there, and tell us what that process is, because you handled this type of transactions, Lance.
Well, for all of our participant lenders, we've always been able, Bob, to submit a request for an expedited request, but it's like anything else that's special. You can't call up, if you've got 10 loans at Citrus Heights, say they're all expedited.
Well, yeah.
There needs to be a true reason. If you've got a small business that has a pending closing date, and there's no negotiation on a change, and you need them to put it in the expedited queue, SBA will certainly do it. So if you as a participant lender have one submitted GP, and there is a deadline, which quite frankly, Bob, I'm sure most of them have deadlines right now, if you need expedited process, it's okay to reach out to Citrus Heights and request expedited processing. Now, what happens is you'll get a welcome letter from them once you submit it, and it gives a control number. Once you get that welcome number with a control number, you can reply, make sure and include the control number and the loan name and say, for these reasons, we'd like to request expedited processing. But we've always, this is really not new, Bob. You've always been able to request expedited processing if it is necessary for the small business.
Great. And that's for both 7A as well as 504. Just a couple of housekeeping things. If for some reason you tried to put something into E-Tran, it was not accepted, so you need to resubmit it.
Yeah, if you servicing actions in E-Tran, and you should have been able to see that when you do a servicing action, you click on save. If you go back and look at it, notice nothing changed. But the servicing act, you could look at E-Tran all day long, Bob, but you couldn't change things during the shutdown. So it has to be redone in E-Tran.
Same thing for send this file. If you sent a wrap-up report, guaranteed purchase request, again, they need to be resubmitted. Anything through send this file during the shutdown did not arrive.
Well, and you can rest assured, I talked to the director of one of the servicing centers today, Bob. They are doing whatever is necessary to help you get those servicing actions that fell through the crack taken care of. I did have a wrap-up report that I had to send via send this file yesterday, Bob. And, I needed some help from Herndon, and certainly they answered and provided the assistance. But the servicing centers are there to help you if you have a servicing request that may have dropped through the cracks.
Also, in the notice, SBA makes it very clear we have that 2-year liquidation deadline to file wrap-up reports. They've extended it for 35 days. So, I mean, this entire notice, you have to go through it, but very, very industry Main Street friendly, in my opinion. And all the stories I hear is SBA is doing a wonderful job. Hey, very quickly, 504, the same type of information. They'll accept the information December 21st. 327 actions for the 504 lenders are given priority, and if you're in that situation, you go through that. And let's move on. I want to see this very quickly. This was an interesting story that I wrote about on Monday, and I know none of you are experts in Australia small business lending, but Australia is having sort of a small business lending crisis and getting capital access. And one of the reasons why is they have a standard which says the lender must prove that they are being prudent and that the lender has gone above and beyond by proving that the small business can pay back the loan. And there's been some things that have happened there, but there's been grumblings by the Royal Banking Commission. I love that title. About placing restrictions of how you can liquidate collateral. Can you take someone's home? Can we talk about we need to automatically extend loans? The reason why I talk about this is I sort of put this out there. None of this applies to the United States, but a lot of what they're talking about there, we're talking about here. And I think we just need to always understand that even though we're not being held to the same standard, let's be prudent in what we do.
Hey, Bob, I do like this one, compelling lenders to automatically extend loans that have hit their maturity date.
Yeah, we have to do.
I actually, Bob, it's kind of interesting that Australia is going through this. I got a call from a government agency in the Middle East that has a small business lending program, and they had questions about servicing and liquidation of small business loans. So it was an incredibly interesting call I had. It was about 2 weeks ago, Bob.
Yeah. Anyway, I put that out there just because the conversations they have in Australia, we're having here, especially the bottom line. California, they've put definitely a standard on non-depository institutions on small business lending. In fact, we're going to be doing a webinar on that next one. Hey, very quickly, speaking of webinars, Lance is doing how to document equity injection next week, and we're doing our first annual assisted living facility, which is getting a lot of great registrations. And Lance and I are starting to put that program together, and that's going to be a fun one. Hey, thank you all very much. We enjoyed it. Talk to you next week. We'll be live again. Thank you.
Have a great weekend.